You need to understand this. Women do not bond with the most handsome man, not the smartest, not even the most attentive. They bond with the man who disrupts their emotional balance, without asking permission. Attachment does not come from affection. It comes from impact, from the way a man silently rewires a woman's mental map without saying a word. And here's what most men never grasp. He doesn't need grand gestures to do it. In fact, grand gestures fail because they reek of effort. True attachment is born from microscopic actions, tiny behavioral signals her brain records as markers of deep connection. When a woman becomes attached, it's not a conscious choice. She doesn't sit down and think, "I'm going to get emotionally involved." Her limbic system detects a specific pattern, a pattern that whispers, "This man understands me. This man sees me. This man is different." That pattern has nothing to do with words or compliments. It's driven by 6 invisible actions that activate the same neural circuits controlling desire and emotional dependence. If you're ready to see the truth most men are too afraid to face, stay with me. Let's begin with the first one. Break her predictability without breaking her security. A woman becomes attached when a man gives her certainty and mystery in perfect balance. Too predictable, her emotions fall asleep. Too chaotic, her defenses rise. But in the narrow space between both, something extraordinary happens. That's where deep attraction is born. Most men fall into one of 2 traps. Either they become routine and transparent, or they try so hard to be unpredictable they look unstable. The man who creates real attachment understands one thing. A woman's attention is not conquered, it's interrupted. Because the moment she cannot fully decode you, her mind enters a loop. She begins replaying your tone, analyzing your silence, wondering what you truly think. This is not attraction. This is her limbic system chasing closure. Her brain releases dopamine with each attempt to solve you. The same chemical that fuels addiction. The same neural circuit that creates obsession. Most men never grasp this. They believe presence creates attachment. They believe consistency builds desire. Wrong. Predictability breeds familiarity. Familiarity breeds indifference. But unpredictability without safety creates fear, and fear breeds withdrawal. Here is the paradox most will never master. You must disrupt her emotional certainty without ever breaking her sense of security. She must feel you are grounded, that you move from conviction, not confusion. Your energy must communicate one thing: I am sovereign in my world. I do not need your validation, but I could shift the entire game at any moment. That tension keeps her connected, not because she desires you physically, but because her mind cannot close the loop you created. When your behavior aligns with your values, but remains unpredictable in expression, you become the variable her brain cannot categorize, and what the mind cannot define, it obsesses over. So understand this clearly. You are not playing games. You are constructing gravity. You are not withholding affection. You are commanding rhythm. You are not being distant. You are being unreachable. She will return, not because you chase, but because your absence asks a question her psyche needs answered. Now that you understand how to infiltrate her thoughts, prepare for the second principle, because this one does not just occupy her mind, it enters her body. 2. Create sensory experiences her mind cannot forget. Because here's the truth most men never grasp. Attachment doesn't come from what you say. It comes from what you make her feel without speaking at all. Words fade. Gifts lose their novelty. Even touch becomes routine. But what never fades is how her body reacted when you were present. The female body doesn't remember logic. It remembers sensation. The tone of your voice, low, calm, measured. The way your movements never rush, each one deliberate, grounded, precise. It remembers your silence, not the silence of emptiness, but of control. When you look at her, hold eye contact without urgency. without discomfort. Her nervous system registers something ancient. This man is safe, but powerful. And that's the moment her body begins to memorize you. Most men overcompensate. They talk too much. They move too quickly. They chase validation through volume. But the man who creates real attachment knows the secret. He doesn't seduce. He creates atmospheres. He walks into a room and his presence shifts the air. Not because he's trying to dominate, but because his energy is anchored, rooted, heavy, deliberate. His calmness becomes contagious. His silence becomes magnetic. His stillness feels like power restrained. And without realizing it, she begins to feel different when he is near. Her breathing slows. Her thoughts sharpen into focus. Her body enters a state of alert fascination, that blend of safety and anticipation. It's not lust. It's not comfort. It's emotional gravity. Her subconscious begins to record these sensations, your tone, your stillness, your rhythm. And every time you reappear, her body reactivates those same emotional signals. That is where the unconscious anchor is born. But there's something even deeper happening beneath this surface. Something about the way her mind begins to reorganize itself around your absence. Nothing creates deeper attachment than intermittence. Not constant attention, not total absence, but the rhythm of appearing and retreating with perfect precision. In behavioral psychology, this is called variable reinforcement, the same mechanism that makes gambling addictive.
The same pattern that keeps people refreshing their feeds at 2 a.m. You never know when the reward will come, but when it does, it's enough to keep you waiting for the next one. Women experience the exact same neurological trigger, not through screens, through emotional signals. When a man is always available, her brain stops producing dopamine. The molecule of desire flatlines. When he is completely absent, her mind deletes him as an emotional risk. But when he appears unpredictably and intensely, her limbic system lights up like a warning flare. Curiosity awakens. Anticipation floods her veins. She enters emotional alert. Understand this clearly. Intermittence is not about disappearing. It's not about manipulation. It's about breaking her emotional routine. Most men become predictable too quickly. Their attention follows a fixed pattern. Morning text, evening call, weekend plan. The rhythm becomes background noise, and background noise creates emotional numbness. But what happens when you shatter that pattern? When your presence becomes impossible to map? When she cannot predict whether you'll lean in or step back? That's when her mind begins to. Most men calibrate their presence to her comfort. Messages always timed, tone always seeking reassurance instead of depth. They mistake consistency for value. They don't realize that predictability kills emotional voltage. But the man who understands this law builds his presence like a heartbeat, steady enough to be felt, rare enough to be missed. His responses are not mechanical, they're organic, aligned with his own time, his priorities, his actual desire. His energy follows the pulse of his life, not the tempo of her expectations. And that is what makes his presence irresistibly rare. The natural intermittence of a man centered on himself, not cold, not careless, but devoted to his purpose, is profoundly addictive. She doesn't know when you'll reach out again. But when you do, her entire body reacts. That rush, that emotional spark after distance. It reinforces the neural bond between you. Her brain starts associating your name, your voice, even your silence, with the same biochemical pattern as reward. And once her system learns that rhythm, absence followed by intensity, you stop being an option.
You become the stimulus her system depends on. Her brain begins to anticipate you like a game she can't stop playing. It waits for the next message, the next eye contact, the next unpredictable moment of connection. And every time you appear, the dopamine spikes. A small, powerful reward that makes her crave you even more. This is why intermittent presence is stronger than constant attention. Constancy gives comfort. Intermittence gives addiction. But remember, this only works when it's authentic. It cannot be performed, timed, or acted out. It has to be born from your own grounded rhythm. The man who is busy living doesn't need to plan his distance. His silence is a natural consequence of his focus. That's what keeps her chasing, because she can feel the difference between manipulation and momentum. The first drains her trust. The second ignites her curiosity. A man anchored in his mission doesn't have to vanish to create mystery. His life already makes him mysterious. His purpose already creates scarcity. And scarcity is what gives his attention value. When you master this art, she never knows when the next moment will come, only that when it does, now you see the power of controlled presence. But the next step goes even deeper, because what truly binds a woman to you is not your mystery, not your timing. It's how safe she feels when her soul is exposed. And that's what the next action reveals. 4. Make her express herself without feeling judged. Most men offer words. I understand you. I'm here for you. But words mean nothing.
The man who creates attachment doesn't rush to fix. He doesn't argue, interrupt, or offer premature comfort. He simply listens, with a level of attention so steady, so unshakable, that her emotional armor begins to soften on its own. His gaze doesn't seek approval. It doesn't try to correct her. It simply holds her. That kind of attention disarms every defense mechanism she spent years building. Because most women, even the strong ones, especially the strong ones, live in a constant state of self-protection. They've learned that vulnerability has a price, that being open often leads to judgment, distance, or rejection. So when she meets a man who doesn't judge, who doesn't analyze, but observes her calmly without losing his center, something shifts in the deepest layers of her psyche. Her nervous system recognizes, with him, I am safe. Her mind records, with him, I can feel without consequence. And that registration, that small, invisible moment, is the birth of emotional attachment. You must understand this. She doesn't bond with the man who solves her problems. She bonds with the man who can hold her storms without being pulled in by them. That is the quiet power of presence. And when you master it, now you live inside her mind as the man who made chaos feel calm. But that bond is only the foundation. What comes next determines whether you remain a memory or become a necessity. Action 5. Show interest without dependence. Here's the fatal error most men commit. They confuse interest with desperation. They confuse attention with worship. They think more effort equals more attraction. It doesn't. Interest ignites her emotions. Dependence suffocates them. She doesn't attach to the man who worships her. She attaches to the man who sees her clearly but doesn't collapse without her. Feel the difference in energy. One man says through every action, I need you to validate my existence. The other says nothing, but radiates, my life is already whole. I choose to share it with you. That's not arrogance, that's sovereignty. And sovereignty is what transforms your attention from burden into privilege. The moment she senses you don't need her, she starts wondering why she needs you. Your presence stops feeling like pursuit. It starts feeling like a reward. Deliberate, earned, scarce. And here's the cold truth most men never grasp. Everything scarce becomes valuable. Everything abundant becomes invisible. When your attention is endless, it loses weight. When it's selective, it becomes the one thing she can't stop thinking about. That selectivity isn't cruelty, it's strategy. Because what comes next reveals how scarcity doesn't just create value, it creates obsession. Most men chase. They flood her with attention, text too fast, rearrange their entire lives to be available. They confuse constant presence with connection, not realizing that availability without boundaries is emotional poverty. But the man who creates attachment, he doesn't chase, he selects. He doesn't react to every signal, he chooses which one deserves his energy. His calm restraint becomes magnetic because it speaks one unspoken truth. I could, but I don't need to. And that quiet control is intoxicating. When she senses that you could have anyone, but you remain present by choice, not dependence, her entire system destabilizes. Her logic says, he's independent. But her emotions whisper, then why me? That internal contradiction keeps her chasing the answer. Her mind begins to circle around you, trying to decode what makes her different. That analysis releases dopamine, the chemistry of curiosity and desire. And just like that, her brain begins to associate you with the same thrill that comes from a mystery it can't solve. Understand this. When your life is full,
Your mission alive, your energy disciplined, you stop seeking emotional nourishment from her. You become nourishment to her. Because women do not crave attention. They crave the validation of being chosen by a man who doesn't need to choose anyone. You don't need to prove your worth. Your composure already does. That exact combination, desire without dependence, affection without attachment, choice without need, awakens her deepest instinct for bonding. Because biologically, a woman does not want to mother you. She wants to admire you. And admiration only exists where self-sufficiency lives. So when she sees that your peace remains intact, even when she pulls away, that your focus doesn't shatter when she withdraws attention, you stop being a man who desires her. You become a man her mind cannot forget. Your restraint becomes the new standard. Your calmness becomes the new craving. And your attention, when finally, because the moment you no longer need her affection, she starts fighting for yours. That's the paradox most men never grasp. Value is measured by what you can walk away from. Show interest, yes. Be warm. Be present, but never be dependent. The second your attention becomes predictable, your power vanishes. A man who needs nothing commands everything. Not control over her, control over yourself. Now you're beginning to see the full architecture. Mystery, sensation, freedom, restraint, all interwoven. But there's one final layer. The strongest bond isn't created while you're present. It's forged after you leave. 6. Leave a trace in her mind when you're gone. This is the most subtle principle, also the most powerful. It's not about what you say, not even what you do. It's what remains when you've done nothing at all. Your silence speaks louder than anyone else's presence. You achieve this through psychological resonance, the invisible echo you leave in her nervous system, not through grand gestures.
Through micro details so distinct, her mind can't find them anywhere else. The way you look at her, not with hunger, but with depth. The exact pause before your touch. The tone you use when you say her name to calm her. Not soft, grounded. These tiny, almost invisible actions become emotional codes, engraved in her subconscious. Then she goes back to her life, the crowded office, the noise, the endless messages. Something triggers it, a scent, a tone, a silence. Her body reacts before her mind remembers. Your image flashes, your voice returns, and for a split second, she feels you again. That's how attachment is sealed. Not by your presence, by the way her biology keeps summoning you in your absence. Because her body stores, her nervous system records emotion more faithfully than her memory ever could. When she feels both intensity and safety in your presence, her biology fuses those two opposites together and attaches your name to the feeling. You stop being a man, you become a stimulus, a chemical signature she cannot recreate anywhere else. That's why she comes back. Not out of loyalty, not out of logic, but because her own body betrays her rational mind. Attachment doesn't form through control or dominance. It forms when a woman feels something she can't fully understand, but can't live without repeating. A mixture of calm and chaos, security and mystery, logic and instinct. Only a man who has mastered his emotional center can create that. Because you cannot leave peace in her if you live in turmoil yourself. You cannot awaken curiosity if you live in imitation. You cannot become unforgettable if you keep chasing to be remembered. Real influence is silent. It doesn't demand attention. It invents it. The most Machiavellian form of power isn't control over her behavior. It's influence over her nervous system. You alter her without possessing her. You provoke her without pleading. You become an experience, not a person. When you achieve this, you no longer have to insist. She returns on her own. Not because of what you do, but because her biology has already chosen you. She'll scroll through names, see faces, hear voices, but nothing will hit the same frequency. You became the emotional pattern her mind cannot replace. And this is where attraction crosses into addiction. You've seen what most men never see, that the game was never about perfection. It was about being unforgettable. Now you understand the law. What she cannot predict, she cannot control. What she cannot explain, she cannot forget. And what she cannot replace, she will forever chase. Because power is not what you take, it's what others give you voluntarily, when they can no longer tell the difference between your presence and their own need. That's the essence. He doesn't beg to be desired. He becomes the stimulus that desire obeys. He doesn't pursue emotions. He engineers them. He doesn't conquer women. He conquers the reaction they can't control. And once you've seen the architecture behind attachment, you cannot unsee it. Every glance, every silence, every delay, you'll read it for what it truly is. A test of center. She doesn't want your chaos. She wants to feel her own chaos reflected in your calm. She wants to lose herself, but only in a man who never loses himself first. You're no longer reacting to attraction. You're designing it. No longer seeking validation, you're redefining value. Because there are 3 levels of men. The weak man seeks attention. The strong man commands it. But the awakened man, he becomes it. And when you reach that level, you no longer chase love, approval, or validation. You become the gravity around which they orbit. Stay centered. Stay dangerous. Stay unforgettable. Because this is not the end of the game. This is the game. And now, you know how to play it.
If this opened your eyes, then you are not the same person who pressed play. You've seen the truth that most will never dare to face. That power in connection does not belong to the loud, but to the silent, to the one whose presence rewires the air around them. She will feel it, the shift in your energy, the calm that unnerves her, the confidence that doesn't need to prove itself. You've stopped being predictable. You've stopped being ordinary. And now you've become gravitational. Because attraction isn't built with words. It's carved in silence. It's written in restraint. It's born the moment you stop reaching outward and start radiating inward. So listen, from this moment on, you never chase again. You command through absence. You seduce through stillness. You lead through control of yourself. This is not a trick. This is transformation. The person who understands these 6 invisible actions doesn't play the game. They become the board itself. So if this message spoke to the part of you that refuses to stay average, if you felt something awaken inside you, then you already know what to do. Subscribe, because this is where the facade ends and power begins. Welcome to Inner Compass. Your evolution has just begun. Now tell me, which of these 6 actions hit you hardest?